Hey, citizens of the future, citizen of the future here. And as you guys know, I'm a researcher following the blockchain and DLT revolution. The goal in today's video is to give you guys a helicopter view of the global trade digitalization transformation. Since nobody is talking about this, I wanted to show you what I pieced together. Okay, guys, before we get started here, I just want to say some words. First of all, it's a 45-minute video, but it's all filled with regulated content. I couldn't make it any shorter. So I hope you have the 45 minutes to watch this if you actually want to learn. This video took me about 10 hours itself just to create the content inside this video, and that's not including the research. It took me 7 hours to record, timestamp, edit, and it took me 3 hours to create some of the graphics that I've put in here to help get my point across and to help give you guys insight into my knowledge on how I piece all this stuff together. So what you're going to get out of this video is I'm going to show you guys real world initiatives, some global standards, some global powerhouse networks that are actually powering this fourth industrial revolution. I also show you guys, like, all this stuff is pulled from regulated webinars, regulated content. So you can search the web and find any of this yourself. And as a quick disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. I'm not paid to create any of this. This is just a part of my thesis on the digitalization transformation that the world is going through and my contribution to all the citizens of the globe that I think need to see this in order to understand what is happening. If you guys have been to my channel before, be sure to check out all my other videos. I timestamp everything. You should be able to get a lot of good knowledge out of there on regulated networks powering the fourth industrial revolution. And I dedicate this thesis to my family, my fiance, my sisters, my brother, and my grandma that's still alive, and a big shout out to my mom and grandfather that have passed on and cheering from the sky. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope this takes you to the top and gives you some good insight. Cheers, guys. So the first thing that I want to bring to you guys is I did some research, a lot of damn research. And I believe this is the top of the global trade digitalization revolution. Okay? So stick with me here. I found what is called the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation. That is right here. So the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation is actually made up of 4 huge companies: the International Chamber of Commerce, the World Economic Forum, GIZ, which is some Germany company and that I'm not too familiar with, and CIPE. And these are the supporting countries that put together this global trade alliance. And this alliance is aiming to digitalize documents and processes to help accelerate trade facilitation reform globally. Because right now, 99% of the global trade finance and supply chain industry is paper format. And if you guys have watched my videos before, paper is slow, expensive. It's a huge pain point in the global industry for banks, small, medium enterprises, which, for example, 20% of all costs in your that you pay for shipping is from paper itself. It's literally 20%. So I've read documents that they say paper is more expensive than moving the containers full of the goods itself because of the manual processes, the errors, verification times, settlement times. They say for a settlement of an international invoice can take up to 3 to 4 weeks for settlement. So once the goods are delivered, it could take an additional 3 to 4 weeks. It's ridiculous. So I just want to show you guys this because I mapped out all the logos to make it so it's all in one place so you could see. So this Global Trade Alliance is a unique public and private partnerships dedicated to the international trade facilitation. They have the TFA Hub, which is the Trade Facilitation Agreement, and that's with the World Trade Organization. So we're talking about the powerhouses of the globe, where the money is moving. Like, we got to look at the globe, we look at it as a huge ecosystem. There's ports all over the world. We're talking about documents, billions of documents. And let me pull up this fact. So right here in the Sustainable Development Goals, this was from a G7 document. And right here, paperless trade will reduce the cost and complexity of trade, tackle 50% of the global $1.7 trillion trade finance gap, and enable more SMEs to participate and drive an economic recovery and reduce fraud and criminal activities. Legal reforms will remove barriers to innovation, eliminate inefficiencies in the trading system, and accelerate smarter use of technology solutions. So this is saying right here below it, an estimated of 4 billion trade documents are in circulation. If stacked on top of each other, the documents would be 520,000 meters high and consist of 500,000 trees. So I did the equation. If you stack 520,000 meters high, now to keep you excited to keep watching this, I visually mapped it out for you. So 520,000 meters high, you divide that by the height of the Statue of Liberty, that equals 5,500 Statues of Liberty high. That's how high the stack would go if you had 5,500 Statues of Liberty stacked on top of each other. Damn, that's disgusting. Digital documents are the future. So this is why I'm doing this, because I'm showing you the problem as the globe as a whole. So then we can look and we can dive into the solutions and the initiatives and things that are happening that are at the forefront of this industrial revolution. And why would any citizen think this is interesting or think that this is relevant to them is a question that I'm assuming all of you are wondering. And how I would answer that is because some of these solutions are decentralized, distributed ledger technology ecosystems that any person that can use the internet can get involved with global trade, so that can participate in the fourth industrial revolution. And as you guys know, the mainstream media has been doing a hell of a great job on telling everyone that cryptocurrencies are only used for money laundering, scams, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu. That's cryptocurrency. Yes, that's cryptocurrency, but they don't tell you citizens, they don't tell us there's blockchain and distributed ledger technology that's actually a technology at the forefront of the industrial revolution. So this is why I create my videos, is because I want to bring you citizens to the modern day revolution. Hey guys, I just want to say quickly, if you're getting anything out of this, like, comment, subscribe. And if you're new to blockchain and DLT and you need a cold storage wallet to safely be your own bank, I put 2 discount links in the description of the video that you could save $50 on 1 decent cold storage wallet or $129 on 2 if you use those links. Cheers. So let's dive a little deeper. Trade digitalization. Here we go. So as I just showed you the top of those companies, there's the International Chamber of Commerce. The International Chamber of Commerce has an initiative called the Digital Standards Initiative. And this initiative is to help standardize trade digitalization around the globe. So the ICC, if you guys don't know who the ICC is, I'm going to pull up an image here. So the ICC is a consortium of companies around the world. So, for example, we represent 45 million companies, 1 billion employees, 100 plus countries. We are the voice of business at intergovernmental level. That is how big the ICC is. It's a global powerhouse. And they've put in this Digital Standards Initiative. Okay? So now, let me show you what the ICC Digital Standards Initiative breaks down into. So this is for companies around the globe to digitalize their systems. It's an initiative to help developers save time on designing solutions by giving them a framework that other companies around the world are adhering to. So, for example, you go to the ICC DSI Initiative website, and you scroll down and you play around in there, you come across this, TradeTrust. So if you've watched my other videos, I've broken this down, and I'm explaining to you guys the deepest initiatives at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution. There's two parts to the DSI initiative. TradeTrust, which is another blockchain consortium like XDC Network, but it's built on Ethereum. And so it's literally a network about a trade finance supply chain network for electronic bills of lading, electronic transfer records, and then it's also the DSI also supports the International Trade and Forfeiting Association DNI Initiative, Digital Negotiable Instruments Initiatives. And if you guys have been paying attention to my stuff, I've blatantly said this DNI initiative utilizes the XDC network, distributed ledger technology, for digitalizing documents and trade finance invoices and NFTs. It is a network endorsed by the ICC, as I just showed you guys. Okay. So now, let me show you one more thing here. Is you got two separate networks. You got an ERC20 network that's with digital documents. So this standard is for digitalizing processes, digitalizing documents, and providing automation into company systems for the future of trade. Now, how do they interoperate? We have XDC Network, which is a separate blockchain, DLT network, and we have an ERC20 network. How do they interoperate? Well, I've dug deeper and deeper and deeper, and it actually comes down to a global standardized framework that is put out by the United Nations called UNCITRAL MLETR, MLETR. And this is from the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, and it's the standardized framework is called Model Law on Electronic Transfer Records. So I'm going to give you guys a schematic that I've drawn out to show you how it interoperates. Okay, so here we have, this is the TradeTrust network platform. So as you see, public blockchain, you got banks, government authorities, freight forwarders, carriers, anyone in the supply chain. And when you're talking about the supply chain, it's all based in paper. It's a mess. Okay, that's all I'm going to say to keep it short, so I don't drag on. But the way they interoperate between these two networks is actually this framework that I just stated, and this framework is a digital document standard that allows these digital documents to interoperate between networks at the document level. So you don't need quant. It's literally these. It's another standard like ISO20022 in the traditional finance. So that's in a richer document standard, ISO20022, and while MLETR is a data format for these digital documents to interoperate between networks. So if you have an XDC digital document, you can interoperate with TradeTrust documents. It doesn't matter what company you're using, that MLETR is a global framework. And to show how early it is, guys, to show it, we're at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution, is one sec here. There is only 6 or 7 jurisdictions that are MLETR compliant. Bahrain in 2018, Belize, Karapi, I've never heard of that place, sorry. Paraguay, Singapore, UAE, Abu Dhabi Global Markets, and if you guys have followed my Twitter, it's February 25th, 2022, 3 weeks ago, the UK just became MLETR compliant. They've now adopted legislation that brings this MLETR digital document standard into the United Kingdom's legislation. And what that MLETR does is all trade jurisdictions around the globe, they all run off English law. English law is one of the longest outstanding laws for legislation in global trade. And they all go off this thing called Bills of Exchange Act 1882. It's literally a piece of legislation that was created in 1882 for global trade. But it says, in order for a document to be recognized, it has to have a wet signature on paper. It does not have the wording to validate an electronic transfer doc record. So MLETR is an update to the legislation to accept ownership of digital documents as valid in a global trade transaction. So just think, the IMF has 190 countries. So now just picture, this is how early we are. There's only 7 jurisdictions out of what, 190 plus countries in world trade that are MLETR compliant. So now, before I get to my grand finale picture that I really show the big picture, I want to show you this, that me and another deep researcher, follow him on Twitter at XX_1133_1221_11. He mapped this out through our research and our conversations. And this is an overlook view of TradeTeq, Enigio, and just like a whole wide bird's eye view of XDC Network and the digitalized trade finance side of that. So Andre Casterman, just to give you guys a quick rundown, so you look at this. These are all companies that are part of the TFD initiative, which I have talked about and broken down in other videos. Andre Casterman, he's a true trade finance head of the revolution. He is one to follow. He's a part of the TFD initiative. He's a board and chair of the ITFA. He's worked for the International Chamber of Commerce for multiple years. He's an advisor for the World of Account, which is a trade finance company. He's also on the board of Intex, which is a data processing software. He's a contributor to Trade Finance Global. Here's Enigio. So they cryptographically secure digital documents on the XDC blockchain. Here's TradeTeq, which is an NFT marketplace. I break down later on in the video. Originators, so for example, when you look at this, you got to really take 5 minutes and absorb everything. You need to go through it as a schematic here. He's a part of the XDC Foundation, and he gets banks to utilize XDC Network for the trade finance asset origination. What else? You keep looking at this. TradeTeq. TradeTeq is actually built on XDC infrastructure for settlement of digitalized trade assets. It's a white label for all these people, companies a part of the TFD initiative. So what happens is you get real world assets, you tokenize it, whether it's grain, whatever, tradable assets, you tokenize it. This tokenize goes on the TradeTeq platform, which connects buyers and sellers through APIs, and it's also interoperable with other trade finance networks, which I get into. And yeah, so Enigio is the digital document layer for XDC, yeah, this is just the process. So I hope this gives you some view. If you like this research, make sure you give him a follow, because he does these awesome, great mind maps as well. And I hope you guys really like this next one that I'm about to show you. And just what we thought was cool, somebody asks, Andre Casterman, do you validate this? And he says, great job. And Andre, a couple minutes later, he says, yes, I do. And more innovations being launched in that ecosystem. Some of the most advanced ones will be based on distributed ledger technology. So that is really cool to get confirmation that our schematics that we are putting together actually have relevance in the regulated trade finance industry. So I hope this helps, guys, and on to the next. Okay, guys. So now I took a couple hours to craft out a visualization so you can see a helicopter view of the global trade environment and how it all works together. So I welcome you guys to the digitalization of the global trade finance industry. This is, I created it from my interpretation of my research so I can give you a full view so you can see what is going on. Because why hasn't mainstream media talked about this? Because they don't want people realizing what is actually going on in the back end of the global system. So the DSI Initiative, which I just talked to you about, and how I told you MLETR is the interoperator. It is what allows your digital document to settle between the two. So anytime you see a schematic diagram, you take a full 5-minute step back and just absorb everything on the page. Take a look at everything. So we have the ICC DSI Initiative here. It gets broken down between the two parts, like I stated. The DNI Initiative and the TradeTrust Initiative, which is through the IMDA, Infocom Media Development Authority, Dubai, Singapore. That's that side of the world. Okay, so now ITFA's DNI, Digital Negotiable Instruments Initiative, utilizes XDC Network as the distributed ledger technology. I'm not talking cryptocurrency, I'm talking about DLT, as that is the industrial term for the technology. Forget about cryptocurrencies. Understand that DLT is this technology that's powering the future. There is TradeTeq. TradeTeq is an NFT marketplace. It's a white label tokenization platform for banks and SMEs, a part of this, the TFD initiative, which is right here. If you go through my Twitter, you go through my other videos, and it breaks it down, but I'm giving you an overview, a quick overview. This TradeTeq platform means that any user of that platform can take an asset and tokenize it, and then sell it on that NFT marketplace for buyers around the globe that want to invest or purchase trade assets. You got two key players for the ITFA. Andre Casterman, a true trade finance OG. He's worked with the ICC, he's worked with SWIFT. And then you got Sean Edwards, who is a lawyer, a part of the ITFA board, another OG in the trade finance space. Those are the guys to be watching. Okay, so the ITFA has the two initiatives, the DNI initiative and the TFD initiative. The TFD initiative, one sec, let me pull up a thing so you can see the partners in there. Okay guys, here's the TFD initiative. Just quickly, HSBC is a part of it, and it's the TFD initiative is establishing the largest business community of trade originators, funding platforms, credit insurers, institutional funders, and the service providers committed to increase the level of automation and transparency in trade asset and risk distribution on the basis of technology-based market practices. These are the members of the TFD initiative. ING Bank, the ICC, AIG, Banco Brazil, ANZ, HSBC, Deutsche Bank, QNB, Intex, Standard Charter, Tradeflow, World of Account, Lloyds Bank, SMBC, and this year also Tradefinex Global, one of the largest trade finance media producers, joined the TFD initiative. And look at this, TradeTeq is an infrastructure provider. So TradeTeq is a marketplace built on top of the XDC network. So as we see here, if you look at my mind map, XDC is built, so that's the main foundational infrastructure for TradeTeq. They have Tradefinex. Tradefinex was Zinfin's original NFT marketplace for trade finance assets. But I think TradeTeq is the replacement, because the TradeTeq platform is a white label for all banks in the trade finance distribution. So it goes from just Tradefinex being the first
proof of concept from XinFin, I think TradeTeq is going to be the replacement for Tradefinex, because TradeTeq is a white label for tokenization for institutions and any platform in trade finance. There's also what I'm going to break down here. I guess I'll do that in the next video. Is Enigio, and this is the company that is one of the main companies at the forefront of the digitalization revolution for institutions. Because what they do is they take paper, they turn it into a digital document that can be sent on the XDC blockchain, on distributed ledger technology. So we have a decentralized file sharing platform. So it's like DocuSign, but it's attached, cryptographically secured to a distributed ledger technology. So that is why Enigio is huge. That is why it's a very important part for the XDC network, because XDC isn't just for payments. It just isn't for CBDCs. It's also for being a part of digitalizing documents in the trade finance global supply chain. Also, just to mention, there was that DC United a couple weeks back. That partnership is the first major retail partnership for XDC, and that is bringing a lot of eyes onto the XDC network. So we're at the start of something very big here, and that's why my main focus is on teaching people about XDC, is because it's a hidden gem. No main influencers have done the research that I've done, and I want to share it with the world just to pay it forward, to help other people see the things that mainstream media has missed. Okay, back to this document here. So, as I just explained, Enigio is for digitalizing documents, cryptographically securing documents. It also, Enigio documents meet ISO 20022, the traditional finance banking standard for richer documents, which is huge, because that, and as you guys know, XDC Network has Impel. Impel is the ones, how do you put it, banking professionals that are creating the processes. So XDC Network is ISO 20022 interoperable. So that means XDC Network can interoperate with traditional finance through this ISO 20022 standard. And that, as you guys know, by 2025, that is when all banks globally need to update their systems to meet this standard. It's a very important standard in the big picture side of things. So, just to let you guys know, the G7 has made it a priority for digitalizing documents in global trade. One sec, another document here. So, one night doing a shit ton of research, I came across this document and I was shitting my pants because I couldn't believe it. G7, creating a modern digital trade ecosystem, cutting the cost and complexity of trade, reforming laws and harmonizing legal frameworks. This is from the United Kingdom ICC. Paperless trade facilitation could create 267 billion of additional exports. But digitalizing the trade ecosystem could create as much as $6 trillion in extra exports by 2026. Paperless trade facilitation could reduce costs as a share of total trade across the G7 by 76%. A fully digitalized trade ecosystem result in an average of 84% reduction in trade costs by the G7 by 2026. Using electronic transfer records across the G7 countries could enable global trade to be increased by 40% by 2026. Reducing time spent by 81%. And where else? There's even more. MLETR, that's the framework that I'm telling you guys about. Research, I'm putting tweets out there. Research this stuff. Do yourself the favor, because you're either going to learn about it now before the masses, or you're going to learn about it after it's too late and there's no money to be made. Right now, we're early. With the roots, we're watching the information that I have. The roots are growing, and they're being built. The rails. So I just want to say quickly before we move on to the next page, if you are loving this information, like, comment, retweet, just share it. Get it out there. Leave some feedback in the comments because that helps. So on to the next. The ICC is calling on national governments to create a modern digital trade ecosystem by reforming laws to digitize trade documentation and align legal frameworks to the UNCITRAL MLETR. This supports the G7 for collaboration on electronic transferable records call to do the same, the work of the UNCITRAL in promoting MLETR, the framework agreement on facilitation of cross-border paperless trade in Asia and the Pacific of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNISCAP. It also supports the ambition of the Commonwealth Connectivity Agenda to increase Commonwealth trade by $2 trillion to $2 trillion by 2030. A modern digital trade ecosystem fit for the 21st century requires national laws to recognize all trade documents in digital form and legal systems to be aligned to enable digital information to move seamlessly across borders and between stakeholders, buyers, sellers, financiers, insurers, shippers, logistics, and customs. While great progress is being made to digitize trade facilitation and customs documents, most jurisdictions around the world still require documents that transfer the possession of goods, transferable records, to be presented in paper form. So this is that BOE 1882 that I'm talking about, and that's written in English law. Examples of such documents in international trade include bills of exchange, bills of lading, promissory notes, and warehouse receipts. The digital trading system currently operates on antiquated systems and laws, in some cases dating back centuries. A typical trade transaction involves up to 27 documents, 9 of which relate to the transfer of possession, and can cost $80,000 per transaction and take up to 2 to 3 months to process. Crazy. And I hope you guys understand this is a G7 document. This is a political forum between the 7 biggest countries out there. Crazy. Up to 2 to 3 months to process. In total, 4 billion documents that I've already went over. And the trade finance gap. So I've talked about this in other videos. The trade finance gap, I'll do another video to talk about it. The current trade finance gap is the lack of funding that small, medium enterprises, businesses worldwide do not have access to funding. 40% of businesses get loan rejection, which is ridiculous. And for people that just want money to grow their business, to buy things, and they can't get it because they don't have the credit, they don't have the infrastructure, banks don't have the money, it's too high risk, so they don't loan to a lot of the small, medium enterprises. The optimal way to achieve this is to reform national laws in line with the UNCITRAL MLETR. The Digital Standards Initiative is creating harmonizing legal frameworks and provide analysis and preparedness of the UK market in relation to use of digital identification. So, talking about how trade is today, there's a huge trade finance gap, there's heavy paper, outdated laws, because like I said, MLETR doesn't accept digital form, Bill 1882 doesn't accept digital forms, and there's no standards. So if you look at the trade industry, supply chain industry as a whole, ports around the globe don't communicate with each other. Everyone's on different systems. There's no standards in place. It's just a mess. So what we're going to see in the future is when we see all digital documents digitalized, automation. We're going to see smart contracts in play. We're going to see no more human verification of these documents, which are robbing the global system billions and billions and billions of dollars in costs, extra costs that could be just wiped out. If we digitalized global systems, we could have a flawless interoperability between systems. No more digital islands, and that's a major problem in global trade, is digital islands. So, and here, check out these keywords. This is how it all connects together. I'm giving it to you. So if you want to learn There you go. If you don't want to learn and this isn't relevant to you, well, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Miss the boat. Talk shit. I've got the proof. Go ahead and say what you want to say, fudders. Okay, and here we go. G7, Ministerial Declaration. Paper-based transactions which still dominate international trade are a source of cost, delay, inefficiency, fraud, error, and environmental impact. It is our shared view that by enabling businesses to use electronic transferable records, we will generate efficiencies and economic savings. This will strengthen the resilience of our global economic system and play a crucial role in trade recovery across the G7. April 28th, 2021. This is the G7 framework for digitalizing global trade. Do you see how big this is? This is why mainstream media isn't talking about this. C19, stuff in the past. All they talk about is the stuff in the past because they don't want people learning the future. They don't want people learning about the future so they can participate in the revolution and figure out how to benefit from it before it actually happens. Mainstream media is the problem. Right here, MLETR creates an enabling framework for paperless trade. It's an international framework to align national laws and enable the use of electronic transfer records both domestically and across borders. MLETR builds the principles on non-discrimination against the use of electronic means, functional equivalent, and technology neutrality underpinning all United Nations Commission on International Trade Law on electronic commerce. It enables the use of modern technologies, including registries, tokens, and distributed ledgers. Do you guys see how there's no cryptocurrencies? How there's no, they use the proper term, distributed ledger technologies. That is why when you watch mainstream media, you're asking about cryptocurrencies. You search cryptocurrencies. They're not talking about the underlying technology that's changing the world. So that's the UK. Telling you guys, this is we're on top of the world. If you're learning this stuff, you are a citizen of the future. You're not a citizen of the past anymore. You're a citizen of the future. And so let's get back to this. So I said, there's right there. I showed you the G7, green light on MLETR. So XDC Network can interoperate through this MLETR, digitalization of documents. It's a standard for anywhere in the globe. Wherever you are, you can settle a document in a fraction of a cent, for a fraction of a cent, and in 2 seconds. And that document is to the other side. It's cryptographically secured. There's no, and you get to see the ownership. Who's made changes to that document, when they made changes to that document. And the owner of the most recent document owns the goods that are in that document. So say whether it's a bin full of electronics, and you own that electronic transfer record, and it is MLETR compliant, and you own the most recent one, then you own the rights to those goods. And paper copies, if you lose that paper copy, it spirals downhill. There's human verification, but now we're talking about digital documents. You can now do this. You can now interoperate between XDC Network and any other MLETR compliant networks. But this is just to break down the ICC's DSI Initiative. Here we have TradeTrust. TradeTrust is that ERC20 token. Their main thing is in Abu Dhabi Global Markets, Singapore, Infocom Development Authority, and this is it. They are interoperable with Swift Network. They have platforms where, you know what, they're sending NFTs, non-fungible tokens, either on the XDC network or on the TradeTrust network. And those NFTs represent real-world trade assets that can be worth valuing between $100,000 up to multi-million, multi-billion-dollar trade finance assets. The digitalized revolution is here, and it is just getting started. The MLETR train is just starting to leave the station. The balls are in motion. And this isn't just, we're going to be rich after a year. No, 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 no. Take a real step back. MLETR has been an initiative or a standard that's been going on since 2017. So it's going on for 5 years now. They've got 6 jurisdictions worldwide that have accepted that into their legislation. Well, why is that? Because as everyone knows, governments are slow. Governments are, they have a lot of steps to go through to enact new legislation. So this is a multi-year thing. You got to really take a step back. XDC Network, this trade finance revolution is a multi-year thing, okay? Don't ask me about price predictions. I'm not price prediction shit. I'm showing you guys the fundamentals behind the paperless trade revolution of distributed ledger technology and how it interoperates with the powerhouses, because I've spent way too many goddamn hours researching this stuff, and I've got way too much knowledge that has been buried that I need to teach in order to help change other people's lives. Okay, so to show you what is digitalization as a visual, because I forgot to do that. Trade finance the old-fashioned way. So when you have paper documents and you picture you're going from China to Canada, the documents change hands up to 200 times. They get lost. It's going through issuing banks. It's going through insurance companies. It's going through exporters, importers, correspondent banks, transport companies, cargo ships. It's a mess. And it's paper, okay? Expensive. Remember, it's got to get verified. And this is from a Sullivan and Worcester law document. This is one of the highest trade finance network or trade finance law firms out there. And one possible blockchain-enabled future when we can have this. So this was from 2018, this document, and I'm happy I stumbled upon it because this is great. This shows when you have a distributed ledger technology that you can move a digital document between whatever player and you're transferring the real-world ownership with that document, you have a complete immutable ledger of who has had possession of the document or the shipment. It creates a digital twin that is scanned in at each point. It creates automation at the highest level possible because it cuts out all the manual processes in paper. It cuts out all the risk of losing and having to validate paper at every checkpoint amongst the way. And you have that documentation on a living, breathing ledger for the rest of your life. You don't have to store paper. You don't have to keep copies. And it allows, so this, having everything on an immutable ledger, it's going to open up the trade finance gap because now, since everything's being tracked through trade and legal entity identifiers, companies will now able to get actual loans, get more funding through the process of using a tokenized ecosystem, which is huge. Because before, in this current system we have now, the only people that you can get a loan from is a bank. And in the future, it's going to be a decentralized liquidity pool that anyone can, so companies, if they need a loan, they could take a loan from a liquidity pool. And anybody that has these digital tokens to these trade finance economies can lend their tokens to the global liquidity pool, which will then give them an APY return. So here's one thing from March 30th, 2021. Accelerating trade digitalization through distributed ledger technology. Global Trade and Blockchain Forum with the World Trade Organization and the ICC.
So I'm showing you this because I want to show you the progression over the last months, over the last years. And so I just showed you that March 30th, 2021, look at October 2021, International Chamber of Commerce, Asian Development Bank, World Customs Organization, the UN, accelerating cross-border paperless trade facilitation. It's exactly what I've been teaching you guys in this video. And this next thing, this last little clip, that since you made it this far, this is my Easter egg to you. And it made my year when I heard it, and I think that you will remember this clip for the rest of your life. And you let me know in the feedback if you do. Now, I want to This is going to be my drop the mic moment. I want to share with you guys here a clip from a webinar that I was able to attend to. And it's from Mr. Stephen Beck, the head of Trade and Supply Chain Finance with Asian Development Bank. And he's about, if you listen to the words and how he describes the ICC Digital Standards Initiative.
The supply chain. So critical stuff. And the work that the Digital Standards Initiative is doing is I really do believe that we'll look back in history at this next sort of great leap in global trade, this digitization of trade, and we'll look back and the historians will see that the Digital Standards Initiative played a pivotal role in us moving forward on so many of these issues. So thank you for that. We have a really interesting panel with us to discuss.
Did you guys hear that? Historians will look back and write history on the pivotal role the ICC Digital Standards Initiative played in the role of paperless trade. And I just broke down majority of stuff that you need to understand and research. So,
Okay, guys, so that sums up this Citizen of the Future's outlook on the digitalization of global trade finance and supply chain. And I'm not saying this is all the information. No, this is just scratching the surface. This is 45 minutes of compiled information from thousands of hours of research that I've done. And but these are just the most important parts, and I hope you guys, it gives you guys the fire inside to research yourselves and try and piece out how the bigger picture works in the globe, other than just focusing in on your own little bubble in real life. Because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Digitalization of industries of the world will only happen once in our families' histories as citizens of the. Because trade digitalization will only happen once in our family's history. So I hope you guys got something out of this, and if you did, if you found anything helpful, like, comment, subscribe, leave some feedback. Even if you found something and you know more than me in this stuff, correct me. I'm always up for constructive criticism. And in this image right now that I'm sharing, there are some really great trade finance networks that you should research. Marco Polo, TradeTrust, XDC, CargoX, Trade Assets. These are just some of them. And it's not one that's going to succeed. It's going to be a whole. It's going to be a bunch of them as they all working in, as they're interoperable. They're all interoperable together. So enjoy, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.